My name is Ava. I'm 29. And on New Year's Eve, my own mother invited me to dinner just so she could gut me with a smile. The restaurant was one of those downtown Seattle spots with low lighting, clinking champagne flutes, and everyone dressed like they'd stepped out of a catalog. I actually let myself hope, just for a second, that maybe this year would be different. Maybe the jokes would stay light. The glances wouldn't carry that familiar weight of disappointment. Then she leaned in, her perfume sharp against my skin, and whispered almost sweetly, "We only invited you out of pity. Don't stay too long, okay?" For a heartbeat, I thought I'd misheard her, until I saw the smirk playing at the corner of her mouth. My brother, Daniel, burst out laughing like it was the punchline to a private joke they'd been saving all night. "Honestly," he said, loud enough for the next table to hear, "you're basically the family's charity case. The one who never made it? The one we have to rescue and hide." A few relatives chuckled. Someone muttered, "At least she showed up on time for once." It was like they'd rehearsed it. I just sat there, gripping my glass, feeling each word land like a stone in my chest. And then, something in me went very, very still. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why they kept using me as a prop to make themselves feel superior. I smiled, took a slow sip, set the glass down, and said I had an early morning. No drama, no scene. I walked out alone into the cold Seattle night, their laughter trailing behind me like smoke. They thought I was walking away because I was weak. They had no idea that night I'd finally hit my limit. They had no idea that 1 week later, the cozy family cabin they loved so much would be gone, and the accounts they depended on would vanish along with it. If you stay with me until the end, I'll tell you exactly how one New Year's dinner turned into the week their money disappeared. 1 week after that dinner, I was curled up on the sagging couch in my tiny apartment, rain tapping against the window, when my phone started buzzing like it was about to explode. First, a call from my mom, then another, and another. I let them all go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, Daniel's name flashed on the screen. Then again, and again. As it buzzed in my hand, my laptop lit up with bank notifications. Urgent, account changes, statement available, action required. I finally answered one of my mom's calls. All I heard was panicked breathing and her voice pitched high with hysteria, the same tone she used only when her perfect image was cracking. "Ava, what did you do?" she shrieked. "The cabin is gone. Do you understand me? Gone. Strangers at Lake Chelan say they're the new owners, and they have paperwork with your name all over it." She didn't pause. "The bank says the joint accounts are closed. The ones you were on. Auto. Payments bounced. There are fees piling up. Your father is furious. What have you done to us?" In the background, I could hear Dad, Martin, barking orders, and Mom yelling back that she was trying to fix it. I didn't answer right away. I just stared out at the gray sky, rain sliding down the glass like slow tears. Another call came in, Daniel again. I hung up on Mom and watched his name pulse on my screen. When I didn't pick up, he switched to texts. Long, furious paragraphs accusing me of tanking his credit, sabotaging his clients, ruining summer plans. Then the one that made me actually laugh. "All because you couldn't handle one harmless joke at dinner?" I leaned my head back on the couch and closed my eyes. 1 week earlier, I'd walked out of that restaurant feeling like someone had reached into my chest and flipped a switch. I'd gone home, dropped my keys on the counter, and stood in the quiet for a full minute before opening my laptop. That night, I pulled up every document I'd ever signed for them. Old bank emails, digital deeds, screenshots of, "Just sign this, it's no big deal." Texts from Dad and Daniel. I dug out the worn folder in my closet, the one with paper copies of things I'd signed blindly because they said it was for the family. And I read them. really read them. The cabin at Lake Chelan wasn't in my name for tax reasons. It was mine. Period. My signature, my ownership. The emergency credit line Daniel opened after his failed startup? I was the co-applicant. The joint account Mom swore was to help you build credit. It had paid for their Cancun trips, their Tesla lease, their curated life. Page after page, it became clear. I wasn't the failure. I was the safety net they'd woven tightly around themselves and never told me I was holding them up. I grabbed a notebook and wrote 3 words at the top of a fresh page. Take it back. Underneath, I listed everything. The cabin, every joint account, every loan tied to my name without my real consent. I didn't know all the steps yet, but I knew I wouldn't let them keep using me. I thought of Claire, my old college roommate, now a sharp-eyed attorney in the city. As my phone buzzed with more frantic messages, I called her. She picked up on the second ring, her face appearing on my screen. Messy bun, oversized sweater, eyes warm until she saw my face. What happened, Ava? So I told her. About the dinner, the whispers, the years of favors that always ended with my signature. I showed her the stack of documents on my coffee table. Her expression shifted from concern to fierce focus. She zoomed in on the cabin deed and actually cursed. Ava, this isn't shared. You're the sole owner. She walked me through the joint accounts, how I was primary on the credit card, co-signer on Daniel's line of credit. You don't owe them access to your name or your credit, she said firmly. Not even family. Then she hesitated. There's one thing you could do that would hit them where it hurts, but you have to be sure. She knew a cash buyer, a tech couple desperate for a Lake Chelan property. I can list it quietly. Close fast. Legally, they can't stop you. I thought of summers with my grandparents, the only people who ever made me feel worthy, but I also remembered Mom's voice. Pity. I took a breath. Call your buyers. Claire moved fast. The next afternoon, I sat in her office as she walked a polished couple through photos of the cabin. They were exactly the type my parents would have bragged about selling to. Successful, eager, ready to pay full price in cash. Part of me wanted to walk out, protect the last soft memory I had. But then I heard Daniel's laugh again, echoing in that restaurant. So I stayed. Claire laid it out. The property was titled to me, taxes current, no liens. Within an hour, we were drafting an offer. She translated every legal phrase into plain English. Here, she said, tapping the page, you acknowledge you are the sole owner. If you sign, this is no longer theirs to control. It's your decision. My hand trembled, but I signed. That afternoon, I went home and started on the accounts. I called the bank about the family credit card. The rep paused, then said, You're the primary holder. I'd been told my name was just on there for credit. No one mentioned I owned it. I closed it. Next, Daniel's line of credit. I demanded removal as co-applicant. They pushed back, but I used the phrases Claire gave me about consent and misuse. One by one, I severed ties. I saved every confirmation, every email. It didn't feel petty. It felt like proof I hadn't imagined their exploitation. By evening, the first 3 items on my list were crossed out in thick ink. In their world, they probably thought I'd back down. In mine, their getaway was already changing hands, and their financial scaffolding was crumbling. Closing those accounts should have been the end, but with my family, nothing ever is. A few days later, I called Harold Wheeler, my parents' longtime estate attorney. His office was all dark wood and framed diplomas, the physical manifestation of their curated legacy. He greeted me with a firm handshake and a wary smile. Your mother didn't mention you were coming. I told him that was the point. I laid out the documents, deeds, statements, Claire's notes. He tapped the pages, frowned at my grandparents' original will, then compared it to my parents' revised estate plans. Somewhere along the way, my ownership had been quietly folded into family assets. He didn't say fraud, but his jaw tightened. He confirmed I was primary on accounts, sole owner of the cabin. Then he did something surprising. He agreed to update the estate plan to reflect the truth, not their version of it. For my own sake, he admitted, I need a clear record that I advised correction. He was protecting himself, but in doing so, he was finally protecting me. That night, I posted on social media. Sometimes you grow up thinking certain things are family gifts, when really your name and credit were the safety net you never knew you'd provided. This year, I read the fine print. I'm taking back what was legally mine. And I won't sign anything I don't fully understand, ever again. No names, no drama, just truth. Within minutes, comments poured in. Old friends, classmates, even my mom's church group. Proud of you. This hits close to home. You're so brave. 10 minutes later, Mom texted, "Take it down. You're making us look like monsters." Daniel followed. "Clients see this. Delete it." I didn't reply. I let the post stand. A quiet flag in the middle of their crumbling illusion. 2 days later, Daniel pounded on my door like he owned the building. He barged in, waving his phone. "You've nuked my credit. A client just pulled out." I told him calmly I'd removed myself from accounts that never should have carried my name. He scoffed. "It was under control. Dad managed it. That's what families do." I reminded him of the 2 a.m. call when he begged me to sign a loan so he didn't lose everything, while I ate ramen in this apartment. He rolled his eyes. "It all comes out in the wash. You got to use the cabin, didn't you?" That's when something snapped. I stepped back and gestured to my thrift store couch, my mismatched mugs. "Do you see a cabin here, Daniel? Do you see any of the benefits you're so sure I enjoyed? All I see are bills with my name on them, and a family that thought I'd never read them." He left, muttering about involving Dad. An hour later, Martin appeared. Pressed shirt, calm mask, sitting in my best chair like it was his right. He talked about impulsive decisions and reputation. I slid Harold's updated paperwork across the table, proof the cabin was always mine, that debts belonged to them. When he saw Harold's letterhead, a flush crept up his neck. "You went to Harold? Without us?" I shrugged. "You said he was the best." He sighed. "What do you want? Money? An apology?" I told him I didn't want hush money. I wanted out. Of their accounts, their narratives, their use of me as a backup plan. He stared like I'd spoken another language. "You can't just opt out of family." "You already did," I said. "When you invited me to dinner just to laugh at me. This is me catching up." He left quietly. That night, Mom's voicemails cycled through fury, grief, and finally, a raw whisper. "People are asking questions. Maybe we went too far." I played them once, then set my phone down. For once, the storm was theirs to sit in. A week later, Harold called. He'd met with my parents. The estate plan was updated to honor my grandparents' wishes. The cabin sale was documented as my asset. Debts were clearly assigned. If anyone questioned it, the paper trail would show I'd sought clarity, and he'd supported it. With that, I breathed. When the money hit my account, I paid my own debts, set aside taxes, Claire's words ringing in my ears. "The IRS doesn't care about your family drama," and signed a lease on a small studio with big windows and scuffed floors. The first time I unlocked that door, something uncoiled in my chest I hadn't known was tight. I hung sketches from my game designs, set up my laptop, and sent Claire a photo. She replied, "About time, Ava." Back in their world, things shifted. Daniel moved out of his luxury condo. Mom's social posts grew cautious. Weeks later, she asked to meet. Just us, at a coffee shop. She looked smaller without the armor of our house. After a long silence, she apologized. Not the, "I'm sorry you felt that way" kind, but real. "I called it pity," she said softly, "but it was control, and I'm sorry." I told her I appreciated it, but words wouldn't reset everything. The version of me who signed blindly to keep the peace was gone. From now on, no joint accounts, no favors disguised as emergencies, no more punchlines at my expense. If they wanted a relationship, it would be on terms that didn't require me to shrink. Dad never said "I'm sorry," but months later he admitted he'd assumed I'd never push back. "You never cared about money," he said. Not caring about money and not caring about being lied to are two very different things, I replied. We're not a warm, hugging family now. But for the first time, we have boundaries. They stand on their side with their choices. I stand on mine with mine. Here's what I wish someone had told me years ago, and what I want you to hear if this sounds familiar. Family can be love, but it doesn't grant them ownership of your name, your credit, or your silence. Being related doesn't mean you owe them your self-respect. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is read the fine print, ask hard questions, and say no when everyone expects you to say yes. It doesn't make you ungrateful. It makes you responsible. This isn't legal advice, but if you're in this, talk to a real lawyer. And know this: you are not a safety net. You are not a punchline. You are allowed to outgrow the role they gave you. You are allowed to take your name back. And if you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your dignity, you're not alone. If this story spoke to you, drop a comment below. Tell me your name and where you're watching from. And if you're ready to reclaim what's yours, hit like, subscribe, and remember, your signature is yours alone.